Buddhist teachings that can transform your life from within. Have you ever chased something, a goal, a dream, maybe even a person, thinking that once you had it, you'd finally be happy? And when you got it, maybe the joy came, for a moment. But then it slipped away. And you were off chasing the next thing. We've all been there. In a world that constantly tells us to look outside, to do more, earn more, become more, it's easy to believe that happiness is something we need to pursue, like it's just around the corner, waiting for us in the next job, the next house, the next relationship, or the next vacation. But what if that's not where happiness lives? What if happiness isn't something you find out there but something you remember, something you return to within yourself? The Buddha taught this over 2,500 years ago. That real happiness, the kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change, isn't dependent on things or achievements. It's rooted in how we think, how we act, and how we show up in the world. It's not about controlling life, it's about understanding it. And from that understanding, peace naturally arises. This video isn't about religion, and it's not here to tell you what to believe. It's an invitation. An invitation to explore a timeless wisdom that has helped millions of people across cultures and centuries live more peaceful, intentional, and joyful lives. Today, I want to share with you 19 powerful Buddhist teachings, not just as ideas, but as living practices. Simple truths that, when embraced, can gently transform the way you experience your own life. Now, you don't have to be a monk, or meditate in a cave, or give up your favorite coffee to understand these teachings. You just need a little curiosity and a willingness to look inward. These teachings aren't quick fixes or empty promises. They are not here to add more to your to-do list. They are here to strip away the noise, to bring you back to what truly matters. Because maybe, just maybe, happiness has been with you all along. You just needed to stop and notice. In this journey, we'll talk about what it really means to live in the present moment and why so many of us are trapped in the past or worried about the future. We'll explore how to let go of desires that pull us in 100 directions. How to speak in a way that heals rather than harms. And why gratitude, compassion, and simplicity aren't just virtues, but doorways to a deeper kind of peace. Each of these 19 teachings is like a mirror. They reflect back something we already know, deep down. But in the rush of daily life, we forget. We forget that we don't need to have it all figured out to feel whole. We forget that right here, in this breath, in this moment, we are enough. These teachings don't belong to any one culture or one kind of person. They are universal. They are human. And whether you're navigating anxiety, loss, a big life transition, or simply searching for more meaning, you may find something here that speaks directly to your heart. So if you've been feeling disconnected, overwhelmed, or just tired of running in circles, I invite you to pause. Not to escape life, but to enter it more fully. Let this be the beginning of a quiet shift, a return to yourself. Not the self that's defined by titles or timelines, but the deeper self. The one that already holds peace, kindness, and clarity. The teachings of the Buddha are not magic. They don't promise to remove all your problems, but they can offer you a new way to see those problems and to respond with wisdom, not reactivity. With love, not fear. With presence, not distraction. So let's take this journey together. Let's explore these 19 teachings, one by one, with open hearts and curious minds. And who knows, you might just discover that the happiness you've been searching for has been quietly waiting inside you all along. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. Focus on the present moment. The present moment, where true happiness begins. Have you ever caught yourself reliving a conversation from days ago, replaying every word, wishing you'd said something different? Or maybe your mind jumps ahead to next week, the to-do list, the worries, the what ifs that haven't even happened yet. We spend so much of our lives either looking back or leaning forward. But in doing so, we miss the only place where life is actually happening. Right here. Right now. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." Simple words. But within them lies the doorway to something we all long for, peace. We often think happiness will come after something. After the job promotion. After the kids are older. After we finally fix what's broken in our lives. But the truth is, happiness is never in the after. It's in the now. And yet, most of us live like this moment isn't enough. We carry the weight of yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's fears, so heavy that we can't even feel the lightness of today. But what if we could? What if the secret to a more joyful life isn't about fixing the past or planning the perfect future, but about simply being fully here for this breath, this step, this conversation? Mindfulness isn't just a spiritual trend, it's a return to sanity. A way of remembering that this moment, no matter how ordinary, is sacred. Think about it. Have you ever stepped outside and truly felt the sun on your face, not as background noise, but as something alive? Have you ever listened to someone you love, not just with your ears, but with your full attention, no phone, no multitasking, just presence? Those moments, they are not flashy, but they are real. And they are where happiness lives. I used to think I had to earn peace, that once I accomplished enough, managed enough, became enough, then I could rest. But it turns out, peace was never waiting at the end of my list. It was here the whole time. In the space between two breaths. In the pause before I react. In the noticing of something small, the sound of rain, the way a child laughs, the stillness between thoughts. The mind is tricky. It likes to rehearse, to ruminate, to worry. But mindfulness isn't about forcing the mind to stop, it's about training it to return. Return to the now. Again. And again. And again. And when we do, even if only for a moment, something shifts. The noise fades. And we remember. This moment is enough. Life doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. You don't need to be more than you already are to feel whole. You just need to show up, fully, openly, to this moment. Because this is the only place where life is ever really happening. Not in the replays. Not in the maybes. But in the now. So, let me ask you something, not as a narrator, but as a fellow traveler. What would shift in your life if you lived today as if it were the only moment that mattered? Because in truth, it is. Right here. Right now. This moment, unfiltered, unedited, unplanned, is the birthplace of all peace, all joy, all clarity. And all it asks of you is to be here for it. 2. Letting go of craving. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever wanted something so badly that it consumed your thoughts? Maybe it was a promotion, a relationship, a number on the scale, or simply more money in the bank. You thought, if I just get that, I'll be happy. But then, either you didn't get it and felt empty, or worse, you did, and still felt unfulfilled. The Buddha understood this very human pattern thousands of years ago. He didn't say, don't enjoy life. He wasn't against beauty or pleasure. But he did warn us of something deeper, more dangerous, attachment, the act of clinging, grasping, craving, and believing that we must possess something in order to be complete. One of his most powerful teachings reminds us, craving is the root of suffering. Not because we want things, wanting is natural. But because we believe our peace, our joy, our worth, depends on getting what we want. Picture this. You're holding a delicate flower in your hand. If you hold it gently, you can admire its fragrance, its colors, its grace. But what happens when you squeeze it tightly, trying to possess it, control it, never let it go? It withers. It breaks. It loses everything that made it beautiful in the first place. This is exactly what craving does to love, to goals, to life. There's a story about a wealthy man who had everything, houses, lands, servants, and status. Yet every morning, he woke up with a sense of lack. His anxiety wasn't from poverty, it came from his obsession with more. More gold. More deals. More praise. His chest always tight, his smile always strained. Because deep down, he wasn't living, he was hoarding. And every gain brought with it the fear of loss. That's the trap. We often think we are chasing joy, but what we are really doing is running away from discomfort. We try to fill the emptiness with possessions, with attention, with entertainment. But no matter how much we pour in from the outside, the cup inside remains thirsty until we realize happiness doesn't come from getting more. It comes from needing less. Letting go doesn't mean rejecting life. It means no longer depending on external things for inner peace. It's the difference between enjoying a sunset and trying to bottle the sun. Between sharing love and trying to own someone. between setting goals and being crushed if they don't unfold the way we imagined. Letting go means saying, "This is beautiful, but I'll be okay if it changes. I'm grateful for this moment, but I'm not defined by it. I can love deeply without losing myself." What happens when you live like this? You actually enjoy life more. Because there's no desperation, no tension, no grasping. Just presence. Just peace. I'm not saying it's easy. Craving is wired into us. The world constantly whispers, "You're not enough until you get this or that." But the wisdom of the Buddha offers a different path. A path where you already have everything you need right now when you stop chasing and start noticing. So, here's a gentle challenge. What is one thing you've been clinging to? One outcome, one possession, one person, or one version of yourself that you've been afraid to release? What if today you simply softened your grip? Not gave it up, just held it more lightly. Could you breathe a little deeper? Could you smile a little freer? Remember, happiness doesn't disappear when we let go. It finally has room to enter. 3. Practicing right speech, the power of mindful words. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt a weight in your chest, not because of what someone said to you, but because of what you said? There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes not from the chaos outside, but from the words we release without care. Words we can't take back. Words that hurt others or ourselves. And sometimes we don't even realize the impact until much later, when silence fills the space where trust used to be. In Buddhism, one of the core principles of the Eightfold Path is right speech. It's not just about speaking nicely, it's about speaking mindfully. The Buddha taught that our words should be truthful, kind, helpful, and timely. That's it. Just those 4. And yet, they are so easy to forget in the rush of daily life. We live in a world that rewards speed. Quick replies. Snappy comments. Witty comebacks. Social media thrives on sarcasm and hot takes. But in this race to speak first, we often forget to ask ourselves one essential question. Is what I'm about to say going to bring peace or pain? Think about it. How often do we speak just to fill silence? Or to defend our pride? Or to prove we're right? And in doing so, how often do we unknowingly spread misunderstanding, fear, or hurt? There's a simple image I often return to when I think about speech. Our words are like seeds. Every sentence we speak plants something in someone else's heart. It might be a seed of compassion. Or a seed of anger. Over time, these seeds grow into memories, beliefs, and even identities. Let me tell you a story. There once was a man who went to the Buddha and confessed that he had spent much of his life speaking harshly, spreading gossip, criticizing others, lying to protect his ego. "I want to change," he said. "But how do I take back all the harm I've already caused?" The Buddha simply smiled and asked him to go home, take a pillow, and scatter its feathers into the wind. The man did as told and returned the next day. Then the Buddha said, "Now go collect every feather." Of course, it was impossible. That's what our words are like. Once spoken, they fly out into the world, and we can't always know where they land or how deeply they'll stick. That's why the practice of right speech isn't just a moral guideline. It's an act of love. For ourselves and for everyone we speak to. You might be wondering, but doesn't honesty matter too? Yes, absolutely. Right speech doesn't mean we sugarcoat the truth or stay silent in the face of injustice. It means we learn to speak honestly, but compassionately. We speak to connect, not to dominate. To understand, not to wound. And the truth is, our world desperately needs more people who speak with intention. With gentleness. With awareness. Because the words we choose can either harden the world or soften it. Try this the next time you're about to speak, whether it's an argument with a partner, a text to a friend, or a comment online. Pause. And ask yourself, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Will it help bring healing or harmony? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Sometimes silence is the kindest word. And when we do speak, when we speak with presence, with warmth, and with a desire to uplift, we become part of the medicine this world so desperately needs. Right speech isn't perfection. It's practice. A daily invitation to speak less like a reaction and more like a reflection of your heart. You won't always get it right. Neither do I. But each moment is a chance to begin again. A chance to plant seeds of peace. So today, maybe we can start by offering a kind word. A gentle truth. A silence that listens. Because in the end, the words you choose shape the world you live in. 4. Cultivating gratitude. Have you ever paused at the end of a long day and asked yourself, not what went wrong, but what went right? There's a quiet power in gratitude. A shift so gentle that many of us miss it. But once you learn how to recognize it, it changes the way you experience life, moment by moment. The Buddha once said, if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So, let us all be thankful. It sounds simple, maybe even a little humorous at first, but behind that gentle phrasing is a deep truth. We are constantly offered something to be grateful for. Even on days when life feels heavy. Especially on those days. But here's the catch, most of us are trained, by culture, by habit, by survival instincts, to focus on what's missing. What we don't yet have. What's wrong? It's a subtle hunger that keeps whispering, not enough. Not enough time. Not enough love. Not enough money. Not enough recognition. And yet, what if the peace we are searching for doesn't lie in gaining more, but in seeing more clearly? Gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's not some spiritual trick to bypass pain or ignore struggle. Rather, it's the art of holding both, the joy and the difficulty, in the same hand and still choosing to see beauty. Imagine this, two people walk through the same forest. One sees dead leaves, muddy paths, and insects. The other notices how the light dances through the trees, hears the whisper of the wind, and feels awe. The forest didn't change. Their lens did. It's the same with life. Gratitude is that lens. And the best part? You don't need a grand reason to practice it. In fact, it often begins with the smallest things. A warm cup of tea when you're cold. A smile from a stranger. A moment of silence before the world wakes. A single breath that reminds you you're still here. When you start acknowledging those small, often overlooked blessings, something opens. The mind softens. The heart expands. You become more present, not rushing toward the next thing, not trapped in the past, but rooted in the now. And from this place, anxiety loses its grip. Because you're no longer chasing after what's missing, you're anchoring yourself in what's already here. If you're wondering how to begin, start like this. Tonight, before bed, close your eyes and recall 3 things you're grateful for. Don't overthink it. It could be the softness of your pillow. The quiet hum of your fan. The fact that someone, somewhere, thought of you today, even if they didn't say it out loud. Let this small ritual be your rebellion against the noise that says you must always be more, do more, have more. Gratitude is a return. To enough. To presence. To peace. So the next time your mind tells you something's missing, ask it gently, but what's already here? And let your answer become your healing. 5. Living simply. Have you ever noticed how heavy life can feel, even when everything seems to be going well? We chase after more success, more love, more possessions, believing that somewhere in that more, we will finally feel safe, happy, and complete. But the more we accumulate, the heavier we seem to become. More to manage. More to protect. More to fear losing. The Buddha once said that the root of suffering is attachment. And at the heart of attachment, there is often one hidden belief: this is not enough. But what if it is? What if peace doesn't come from having more, but from needing less? Living simply isn't about giving up joy, ambition, or the comforts of life. It's about releasing the grip, the tight clench in our mind that says we must have this, be that, or reach there in order to be okay. There's a quiet kind of richness in simplicity. Not the loud, glamorous kind that demands attention, but the kind that makes space for your soul to breathe. Like sitting in your kitchen in the early morning, hearing the sound of birds instead of traffic. Drinking a cup of tea slowly, not while checking emails. Feeling content not because you got everything you wanted, but because you realized you already had everything you need. Can you remember a moment when you felt that kind of peace? Maybe it was on a quiet walk. Maybe it was a conversation with someone who really listened. Or maybe it was just sitting still, doing nothing, and suddenly noticing that nothing was wrong. That moment, right there, that's the kind of wealth simplicity brings. But why is it so hard to live that way? Because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth depends on achievement, appearance, and accumulation. We scroll through curated lives on screens, and suddenly, our own life feels like it's missing something. So we add more. We try harder. We speed up. But the truth is, when life feels overwhelming, it's not always because we are doing too little, it's often because we are carrying too much. The practice of simplicity is not about scarcity. It's not about forcing yourself to live with less out of guilt. It's about choosing less so you can make space for what actually matters. This doesn't have to mean selling all your stuff or moving to the mountains. It can start with small questions. Do I really need this? Does this bring peace or pressure? What would it feel like to let this go? Start in your home. Start in your schedule. Start in your thoughts. Simplicity might mean fewer clothes in your closet, but more clarity in your mind. It might mean saying no to one more social event so you can say yes to rest. It might mean buying less, but enjoying more. And most importantly, it might mean not chasing after what the world tells you to want, and instead discovering what your soul truly values. In the modern world, simplicity is a rebellion. A gentle, quiet rebellion against noise, speed, and distraction. It says, I choose peace. I choose space. I choose enough. And when we live this way, we begin to see abundance not in our bank accounts or our calendars, but in our breath. In our presence. In the way we begin to actually experience life instead of rushing through it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, restless, or disconnected, try simplifying. Not because you should, but because maybe, just maybe, it will lead you back to the kind of peace that no possession can ever buy. As the Buddha taught, when we let go of clinging, we don't become poor. We become free. The less you want, the richer you are. Ancient Buddhist wisdom. Would you be willing to try it, just for a day? To slow down. To breathe. To need less. And maybe, just maybe, to feel more alive. 6. Practicing compassion, the wisdom of the tree. Have you ever noticed how a tree just stands there calm, unwavering, fully present? There's a story from the Buddhist tradition that goes like this. A young monk once approached his teacher with a restless mind. Master, he said, my thoughts are always racing, one moment I'm dwelling in the past, the next I'm lost in the future. I can't seem to find peace. The old monk smiled gently, pointed to a tall tree outside, and said, be like that tree. It doesn't rush. It doesn't resist. It simply stands, rooted in this moment. That image stayed with me. And maybe it will stay with you too. You see, when we are caught in regret, shame, or fear about what's to come, we become like a leaf in the storm, tossed around by winds we cannot control. But when we return to compassion, we root ourselves again. Not just in the present moment, but in something even deeper, our shared humanity. Because compassion is not about being nice. It's about seeing clearly that just like us, others are also struggling, hurting, hoping. Just like us, they've cried quietly in their car after a long day. Just like us, they've questioned their worth, their path, their purpose. What if we remembered that more often? What if, when someone cut us off in traffic or snapped at us at work, instead of reacting, we paused and asked, what pain might they be carrying today? What story do I not see? This doesn't mean we tolerate harm or excuse cruelty. But it means we don't add more suffering to an already hurting world. It means we respond not with harshness, but with clarity and care. Here's the unexpected beauty: when you practice compassion for others, you start to heal parts of yourself. You begin to see your own wounds not as flaws, but as open doors to understanding. You stop needing to be perfect or right all the time. You stop seeing the world as me versus them. Instead, you begin to whisper a new mantra to yourself. We are all just trying to find peace. We are all just walking each other home. Science even supports this. Studies show that people who regularly practice kindness and compassion experience lower stress, better emotional resilience, and even improved heart health. Compassion literally changes the body, not just the mind. And yet, in our fast-paced, hyper-individualistic world, compassion can seem like weakness. But the truth is, it's one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate. It takes strength to pause when it's easier to react. It takes courage to stay soft in a world that often tells you to harden. It takes wisdom to see the human behind the habit, the pain beneath the anger. So today, maybe you start small. A gentle smile at the cashier who looks exhausted. A kind word to a friend who seems distant. Even just telling yourself, it's okay. You're doing your best. Let your compassion be like the tree, quiet, steady, unnoticed by many, but nourishing everything around it. Because compassion doesn't just make the world kinder. It makes your own heart lighter. And in the end, that might be the most radical act of all. 7. Living the middle way. Have you ever noticed how life constantly swings between two extremes? One day you're all in, chasing pleasures, chasing goals, chasing something, anything to make you feel alive. The next, you find yourself burned out, disconnected, and wondering how things spiraled out of control. And maybe then, you swing the other way. You try to be more disciplined. You set rules. Cut things out. Push harder. Expect more of yourself. But strangely, that doesn't bring peace either. It's like we are trapped in this pendulum, back and forth, between indulgence and restriction, between chaos and rigidity. But what if there's another way? A quieter path. A steadier rhythm. A way that doesn't ask you to give up joy or force perfection, but simply to walk with awareness, to live in balance. This is what the Buddha called the middle way. Not too tight. Not too loose. Let me tell you a story. Centuries ago, when the Buddha was still a seeker, he practiced extreme asceticism. He fasted, denied himself everything, and pushed his body to the edge of death, believing that suffering might bring him enlightenment. But then one day, he heard a musician tuning his lute. If the string was too tight, it would snap. If it was too loose, it wouldn't make a sound. Only in balance could the music flow. And in that moment, he realized, enlightenment isn't at the end of struggle, it's found in balance. That moment changed everything. He began to eat again. To rest. To live in moderation. Not because he gave up, but because he woke up. And maybe that's a message we all need today. Because let's be honest, modern life doesn't know balance. We are always swinging between extremes. Working ourselves into exhaustion, then numbing ourselves with distraction. Chasing the next promotion, the next purchase, the next peak experience. Or falling into the opposite, giving up, detaching, disconnecting, telling ourselves nothing matters anyway. But what if you don't need to push so hard? What if healing doesn't mean retreating from life, and thriving doesn't mean grinding yourself to dust? Maybe real peace lies in the pause. In the breath between yes and no. In saying, this is enough. The middle way isn't about mediocrity. It's about mindful presence in each choice. It's about asking, is this serving my well-being or pulling me off center? Let's bring this down to earth. Maybe it's choosing one glass of wine instead of finishing the bottle. Maybe it's working with focus but knowing when to shut the laptop and take a walk. Maybe it's eating that slice of cake but not using it to cover emotional emptiness. Maybe it's being kind to yourself when you fall short, but not letting yourself spiral into complacency. The middle way is gentle honesty. It's saying, I can be both human and mindful. I can make space for rest without guilt. I can pursue goals without being consumed by them. And strangely, it's in that balance, that quiet middle ground, that something deeper begins to grow. Not the high of a temporary thrill or the pride of extreme control, but the quiet joy of being anchored. You start to feel less shaken by praise or blame. Less reactive to life's ups and downs. Because you're not swinging, you're walking. One step at a time. So let me ask you, where in your life are you pulled to extremes? Where could a little balance bring more peace? What would it feel like to not overdo or underdo, but simply be with presence, with care, with clarity? This is what the middle way invites us into. Not a boring life. Not a passionless one, but a life with room to breathe. A life where you're not constantly proving, chasing, or collapsing, but living. With awareness. With rhythm. With heart. So today, maybe you don't need to swing wildly in search of something more. Maybe you just need to stop, breathe, and gently ask yourself, what is enough? And from that question, maybe you'll hear the quiet music of balance returning. 8. Meditate daily. Find stillness in a noisy world. Have you ever sat in silence and just watched your thoughts float by, like clouds drifting across the sky? Most of us don't. We wake up, grab our phones, rush into the day, and before we know it, we're already overwhelmed. Our minds are busy places, filled with noise, worries, judgments, plans, and memories. But what if, just for a few minutes each day, we could press pause? In the teachings of the Buddha, meditation isn't about escaping life. It's about showing up for it, fully, honestly, and without judgment. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to who you truly are, underneath the clutter. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young monk who struggled with restlessness. No matter how hard he tried, his thoughts kept racing. He couldn't focus. He felt like a failure. One day, he came to his teacher, frustrated, and asked, "Why can't I find peace in meditation?" The teacher simply took him to a still lake at sunrise. "Sit and watch," he said. At first, the surface of the lake was disturbed, ripples from the wind, insects darting across, leaves falling in. But gradually, as the morning settled, the water became perfectly still. The young monk noticed something profound. When the water stilled, it reflected everything clearly: the sky, the trees, the rising sun. The teacher whispered, "Your mind is like this lake. Let the ripples settle." Peace comes not by forcing stillness, but by gently allowing it. That story stayed with me for years. It reminds me that meditation isn't about doing something right. It's about being with what is. Even if your thoughts are loud, even if your body is restless, showing up with awareness, again and again, is already enough. Some people believe you need to meditate for an hour a day to feel anything. But here's the truth: even 5 minutes, yes, just 5, can make a difference. If you give yourself 5 quiet minutes before the day begins, or right before bed, that's 5 minutes of coming back to yourself. 5 minutes of choosing presence over panic. Of responding instead of reacting. And over time, those moments add up. You start noticing your breath more. You catch your thoughts before they spiral. You stop snapping in irritation and begin pausing in compassion. You become like the lake, still, steady, and clear, even when storms pass overhead. What if you tried it tomorrow? Just 5 minutes. No apps, no pressure. Just you, your breath, and the silence between thoughts. What would you discover in that space? Some people fear silence. They say, "It's too quiet, it makes me anxious." But maybe it's not the silence that scares us. Maybe it's what we haven't yet learned to hear, our own hearts. Daily meditation is not a luxury. It's not reserved for monks in mountain temples. It's a lifeline in our chaotic world. A gentle practice of coming back, again and again, to the present moment. Where peace lives. Where healing begins. The Buddha didn't teach meditation as a chore. He offered it as a gift. And every time we sit in stillness, we accept that gift, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. A calmer you ripples out into a calmer world. So, will you take a few minutes today to be still? Close your eyes. Breathe in. Breathe out. Welcome home. 9. Self-discipline, the gentle power of Sila. There's a quiet strength that doesn't make headlines. It doesn't shout. It doesn't conquer. But it transforms lives, slowly, steadily, deeply. That strength is self-discipline. In Buddhist teachings, it's called SLA, the practice of ethical living. But what does that really mean? It means choosing to live with intention, not impulse. To treat others with kindness, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. To say, "I could hurt, but I won't. I could take, but I choose to give." It means building a life where your actions are in harmony with your heart. Now I know, discipline isn't the most exciting word. It sounds like restriction, rules, rigidity. But what if discipline wasn't a cage, but a form of compassion? Buddha once said, "Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts." Think about that for a moment. The real danger isn't out there, it's in here. In the anger we don't tame. In the greed we let run wild. In the words we throw like knives and regret the moment they land. That's why self-discipline matters. Not to impress anyone. Not to earn points. But because when we don't govern our own mind, our mind governs us. And often, not in a kind way. Imagine this. You get cut off in traffic. Your first impulse? Rage. You want to yell, honk, curse. But instead, you pause. You breathe. You remember, they may be rushing to a hospital. I don't know their story. You choose patience over anger. You've just practiced SLA. Or maybe you're tempted to take more than your share of credit, attention, money. But something in you says, this isn't mine to take. And you step back. You've just honored integrity over greed. These moments seem small. But they are seeds. Each time we choose ethics over ego, we plant something beautiful in our lives. Over time, those seeds grow into trust, into peace, into deep self-respect. I'll be honest, this isn't easy. Sometimes I fail. I snap. I act out of fear or pride. But I've learned that discipline isn't about perfection. It's about practice. It's about noticing when we've wandered and gently coming back. Self-discipline is a path, not a punishment. It says you are worth guiding. Your life is worth shaping. It's not about control. It's about care. So here's a question for you. Where in your life are you acting on impulse and suffering because of it? Is it your temper? Your cravings? The way you speak when you're tired or overwhelmed? And here's the deeper question. What would change if you treated your thoughts, your words, your actions like sacred ground? What if each decision was an opportunity to honor yourself and others? Because here's the truth. When you live with discipline, you don't just reduce harm. You create harmony. Not only for yourself, but for everyone who crosses your path. And in a world so often ruled by chaos and reaction, your self-discipline becomes a quiet revolution. A ripple of peace. You become trustworthy. Reliable. Rooted. Not because you've forced yourself into a mold, but because you've chosen to live by deeper values. So today, begin where you are. Notice your thoughts. Watch your words. Choose your actions with care. And when you slip, as we all do, come back. Gently. Consistently. Kindly. Because the most powerful discipline is the one rooted in love. 10. What is anicca? Understanding Buddhist impermanence. Have you ever tried to hold on to a beautiful moment, wishing it could last just a little longer? Or felt crushed by sadness, hoping it would just disappear? There's a quiet truth in life that slips through our fingers again and again, but once seen clearly, it changes everything. That truth is impermanence. In Buddhism, it's called anicca, the understanding that all things, without exception, are always changing. Let that sink in for a moment. Everything changes. The joy you felt when someone held your hand for the first time. The grief that once felt too heavy to bear. The success you celebrated. The failure you tried to forget. None of them stayed. They came. They passed. And life went on. Understanding impermanence doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means becoming real. It means learning to stop chasing what cannot stay and learning to open your heart to what's here, right now. The Buddha once taught that suffering arises when we cling to what's temporary, when we demand life to be permanent, when in fact it never is. Think about it, how much pain comes from trying to freeze time? How often do we say, I don't want this to end, or I just want things to go back to how they were? But time doesn't work that way. Neither does life. Instead of clinging, what if we practice noticing? Noticing how the seasons shift, how people grow, how emotions rise and fade like waves on the shore. Noticing how every breath we take is new, how no moment has ever been lived before and will never come again. A story comes to mind of a Zen monk who would pause each morning and whisper to himself, "This cup will break." He loved his teacup. But instead of fearing its loss, he reminded himself daily of its fragility. And because of that, he cherished it more. He drank his tea slowly. He smiled. And when the day came that the cup finally broke, he did not weep. He bowed. Impermanence doesn't take away beauty, it gives it depth. It teaches us to treasure what we have, not because it lasts, but because it doesn't. We often think permanence brings security. But in truth, it's change that gives us freedom. Because if things can change, it means pain can soften. Loneliness can turn into connection. Wounds can become wisdom. And even the heaviest seasons of our lives will not last forever. So, what would it mean for you to embrace impermanence today? Maybe it's allowing yourself to feel grief without resisting it, knowing it will pass. Maybe it's letting go of the past you've been gripping tightly, the should-have-beens and what ifs. Or maybe it's simply noticing something ordinary, a sunset, a child's laughter, your own breath, and realizing, this too is precious. This too will pass. We live in a culture that tries to defy change. Anti-aging creams, endless digital memories, the pressure to always be the same, look the same, feel the same. But you're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to feel something different today than you did yesterday. You're allowed to change your mind, your habits, your path. And you're allowed to grieve what is gone while still honoring what remains. Impermanence doesn't mean nothing matters. It means everything does. So next time you're holding on to something, a moment, a person, an emotion, ask yourself, am I clinging or am I present? Because when you truly accept the changing nature of life, peace isn't far behind. It arrives quietly, like a breeze through an open window, reminding you that nothing is promised, and yet everything is a gift. Just this breath. Just this moment. Just this life, fleeting and full of wonder. That is the power of anicca. Not to make us fear change, but to teach us how to love more deeply, live more honestly, and let go more gently. So I leave you with this. What are you ready to release today, gently, lovingly, knowing it was never meant to stay? And what are you ready to fully embrace, just for this moment, knowing it won't last, but that it matters? Impermanence is not a curse. It is the beginning of awakening. Let it open you. 11. The gentle power of no self, anatta. What if I told you that the person you believe yourself to be doesn't really exist? I don't mean that you don't exist. You feel things. You breathe, think, love. But the fixed idea you carry about yourself, the version with a name, a history, a list of likes and dislikes, a pride to defend and a pain to protect, that you is not as solid as it seems. In Buddhist wisdom, this insight is called anatta, or no self. It's not just a spiritual idea. It's a quiet revolution. Most of us live our entire lives thinking we have to defend something, our ego, our identity, our sense of being right. We say things like, that's just who I am. Or we get hurt and say, how could they do that to me? But when we take a moment to really observe, who exactly is this me we're defending? Let's take a breath together. Right now, you are a body sitting or lying down, watching a screen. Your thoughts are flowing. Maybe you're agreeing with me. Maybe not. Your feelings might shift, relaxation, curiosity, maybe a little resistance. But none of those things, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, are constant. They are always changing. So then what is truly you? According to the Buddha, what we call a self is simply a combination of 5 ever-changing elements: form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. They come together, interact with the world, and then pass away. There's no permanent, unchanging I underneath it all. At first, that might sound scary. But really, it's liberating. Think about how many times you've felt hurt just because someone criticized you. But what if there was no fixed you to hurt? Imagine how free you'd be if you didn't need to protect your ego all the time. You could just respond wisely, kindly, calmly. I'll give you an example. I once had a close friend who suddenly distanced themselves from me. No explanation. Just silence. And for weeks, I played stories in my head. Was it something I said? Did they stop valuing me? My pride was bruised. But when I sat with that feeling, something softened. I realized I wasn't actually angry at them. I was clinging to a version of me that needed their approval to feel whole. And when I let that idea go, I felt a strange peace. The friendship eventually healed, but more importantly, I did. Here's the thing, when we cling to a rigid self-image, we suffer. We become easy to offend. We carry resentment. We push people away. But when we understand anatta, we begin to see that everything, including me, is in motion. Fluid. Evolving. We become lighter. We become more forgiving because we know that others are also made of shifting parts, not fixed personalities. The person who hurt you is not always cruel. The one who misunderstood you is simply reacting from their own version of self. When we let go of ego, we make space for compassion. The Dalai Lama once said, the more self-centered we are, the more suffering we experience. And science backs this up. Studies show that people who identify strongly with ego and control tend to report higher levels of anxiety and conflict. Those who practice mindfulness and selfless reflection tend to be calmer, more fulfilled. So let me ask you, who would you be without your story? Not your job title, not your childhood trauma, not your political label, not even your beliefs about yourself. Just here. Just this breath. Just this moment. What if that was enough? Understanding anatta isn't about becoming empty. It's about becoming spacious. It's about no longer being caged by a fixed identity and instead flowing with life, responding with wisdom, choosing love over ego. Because in the end, the most powerful version of you might be the one that doesn't need to prove anything at all. 12. Embracing the truth of suffering, dukkha. Have you ever noticed how often we fight against life, as if pain itself is some sort of mistake? We say things like, this shouldn't be happening to me, or why is life so hard? But what if suffering wasn't a sign that something's wrong, but a part of being alive? The Buddha called this dukkha, the first noble truth, the inescapable fact that life includes suffering. Not because we did something wrong, and not because the universe is against us, but simply because we are human. There will be pain. There will be loss. There will be moments when expectations don't meet reality. That's not failure, that's life showing up exactly as it is. But here's the radical shift, suffering is not the enemy. Denial is. So many of us are taught to push away pain. Distract ourselves. Numb it with busyness, with screens, with food, with blame. We scroll, we shop, we shout, all in an effort to not feel the weight of what's really happening inside us. But the Buddha's teaching invites something so different, almost counterintuitive. He says, don't run. Look. Know the suffering, he teaches. Understand it deeply. Because when we stop resisting it, when we truly see it, we begin to break its hold over us. Think of emotional pain like a knot in a muscle. The more you tense up around it, the tighter it gets. But when you breathe into it, when you bring awareness instead of fear, the knot begins to loosen. Your body starts to soften. So does the heart. This is what the Buddhist path means by accepting dukkha. It's not a passive giving up. It's an active seeing. A brave, tender kind of honesty with yourself. Let me ask you something. What happens when you stop pretending everything's fine? When you allow yourself to grieve without shame? When you admit you're tired, or lost, or even angry without judging yourself for it? That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Real healing doesn't come from always feeling good. It comes from being real with what you feel. Without resistance. Without escape. And ironically, the moment we allow suffering to be what it is, we suffer less. Because we are no longer adding another layer on top, the layer of rejection, of resistance, of shame. We can sit with a broken heart without saying, this should not be. We can face loneliness and not become bitter. We can feel lost and still remain whole. The Buddha never promised a life without suffering. But he offered a way to suffer less. And it starts with this first step, recognizing dukkha not as punishment, but as teacher. You see, every time suffering arises, it's actually an invitation. An invitation to grow in compassion. To see the impermanence of life. To let go of what no longer serves. To ask deeper questions. What am I clinging to? What part of me needs love right now? What illusion am I still holding on to? This inquiry is not comfortable, but it is liberating. And the more we make peace with dukkha, the less we need the world to be perfect in order to be at peace. In fact, some of the most radiant, peaceful people I've met weren't those who avoided suffering, they were those who embraced it fully and let it shape them into something softer, wiser, more human. So maybe the real strength isn't in having it all together. Maybe it's in falling apart and still choosing to show up. Still choosing to love. Still choosing to listen. Let this truth land gently in you. Suffering is part of life. But suffering is not all of life. There is beauty. There is joy. There is wonder, even in the middle of a hard season. And the more we stop resisting what hurts, the more space we create for what heals. Let that be your practice. Do not turn away from your pain. Turn toward it with the gentle light of awareness. Let it teach you. Let it open you. Because the moment we stop running, we start awakening. 13. Right thought, the power of a mind that frees you. Have you ever noticed how your thoughts shape your entire day? You wake up and the first thing that crosses your mind is, I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this. And suddenly, the whole day feels heavier. Every interaction, every task, every unexpected challenge seems to confirm that first whisper of negativity. But then there are other mornings when something inside shifts. Maybe you simply say to yourself, today, I'll meet whatever comes with an open heart. Nothing outside changes dramatically, but somehow your experience does. This is the quiet power of right thought. In Buddhist teaching, it's not just about thinking positively or chanting affirmations. Right thought, also called right intention, is one of the Eightfold Path's essential steps, guiding us toward peace not just in behavior, but in the very seat of behavior, the mind. The Buddha taught, mind precedes all things. They are led by mind, formed by mind. That means your reality, your suffering, your joy, it all begins inside. So what exactly is right thought? In essence, it's thinking from a place of compassion, letting go, and non-harming. It's the practice of watching your inner monologue and asking, is this thought rooted in love or fear? In understanding or judgment? For example, imagine you're standing in line at the grocery store and the person in front of you is moving slowly, fumbling for their wallet. One thought says, seriously. Some of us have places to be. Another thought says, maybe they are having a hard day. Just like I do sometimes. The first thought sparks frustration. The second opens space for patience. And that single moment can ripple through the rest of your day. That's the subtle, transformative magic of right thought. It doesn't necessarily change the world, but it changes how you walk through the world. And here's the thing, cultivating this kind of thought isn't about repressing the negative. It's not about pretending everything's fine or forcing yourself to smile through the storm. It's about gently shifting the direction of your mental current, like turning a small rudder on a massive ship. You don't need to force a flood of positive thoughts. You just need to choose one better thought, one kinder interpretation, one compassionate view, again and again. Right thought includes 3 core aspects. 1. Thoughts of renunciation, letting go of craving and attachment. 2. Thoughts of goodwill, replacing anger with loving kindness. 3. Thoughts of harmlessness, moving away from cruelty toward understanding. Let's pause here and reflect. What's one recurring thought in your mind lately? Is it one that uplifts you or drains you? One that opens your heart or tightens it? I remember once being overwhelmed by feelings of failure. A voice in my head kept repeating, "You're not doing enough. You're falling behind." For weeks, I believed it. Until one morning, during a quiet moment of meditation, I asked myself, who does this voice belong to? Is this my truth, or just an echo from the world's expectations? In that stillness, I realized I had the power to choose a different thought. Not a delusion, not fake confidence, but a thought rooted in compassion. You are doing the best you can. That's enough for today. And just like that, the pressure lifted. I was still the same person, with the same tasks, but my inner landscape had shifted. That's what right thought does. It frees you, not by changing your circumstances, but by transforming your relationship with them. So how do we practice this in daily life? Start by noticing your default thoughts. Do they lean toward blame, fear, control? Or do they invite peace, release, and presence? When a negative thought arises, don't fight it, just see it. And then ask, what would be a more compassionate version of this thought? You can even use this as a daily mantra. May my thoughts be rooted in peace. May they reflect who I truly want to be. Over time, this becomes a habit, not of forced positivity, but of conscious, wise direction. You become the sculptor of your own inner dialogue. And in doing so, you become the creator of a more liberated life. In the end, right thought is not about perfection. You'll still have messy moments. We all do. But it is about awareness. It's about remembering, again and again, that your mind is not just a mirror of the world, but a painter of your experience. You hold the brush. What kind of life do you want to paint today? Let's choose thoughts that bring us home. To clarity. To compassion. To the kind of inner peace that no outside storm can touch. 14. Mindfulness in daily life. Have you ever finished a meal and realized you barely tasted it? Or walked into a room and forgotten why you came in? We live so much of our lives on autopilot. Rushing from task to task. Consumed by worries about tomorrow or regrets from yesterday. But in the process, we miss life itself. The Buddha didn't just teach mindfulness for the meditation cushion. He taught it as a way of being in how we eat, how we walk, how we speak, how we listen. Mindfulness isn't something we practice only when we close our eyes and sit in stillness. It's something we bring into the messiness, the beauty, the ordinary rhythm of every day. It's in the way we take a breath before replying to someone who upset us. It's in the way we sip tea and truly taste it, not while scrolling our phones, but with full presence. It's in the way we hear the sound of the rain, or feel our feet on the ground when we are walking to the mailbox. Mindfulness is not just about calm, it's about clarity. When we are mindful, we are no longer sleepwalking through life. We stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely. We stop projecting our pain onto others and start taking responsibility for how we show up in the world. Think about it. How many times have you said or done something impulsive, something you later regretted, just because you weren't fully present in that moment? That's the cost of mindlessness, disconnection. From ourselves. From others. From reality. But the moment we become mindful, everything shifts. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're washing the dishes. Normally, your mind might be wondering, replaying a fight, worrying about bills, planning tomorrow's meeting. But what if you just wash the dishes? Feel the warm water. Notice the weight of the bowl in your hands. Smell the soap. Hear the clinking of porcelain. Suddenly, something as mundane as doing the dishes becomes a doorway to peace. Because mindfulness transforms the quality of our experience. It teaches us that no moment is too small to matter. And this isn't just spiritual poetry. Science backs it up. Research shows that regular mindfulness practice reduces stress, improves focus, and even boosts emotional regulation. It changes how the brain responds to fear, pain, and anger. But perhaps the most powerful gift of mindfulness is this. It helps us stop hurting ourselves and others unintentionally. When we are not mindful, we speak without thinking. We act from reactivity. We carry emotional wounds and leak them into our relationships. But with mindfulness, we begin to see. To pause. To breathe. And in that space, we can choose. Choose kindness over sarcasm. Choose patience over irritation. Choose presence over distraction. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to add more to your day. You simply bring more presence to what's already there. Eat with mindfulness. Walk with mindfulness. Speak with mindfulness. Work with mindfulness. It's not always easy. But it is powerful. Because over time, mindfulness rewires not just our brains, but our hearts. We become more alive, more compassionate, more whole. So next time you feel overwhelmed, or disconnected, or just rushing through another moment, pause. Take a breath. Come back. Because this moment, right here, right now, is your life. And mindfulness is how you come home to it. 15. Cultivating wisdom, Pan. Have you ever looked back at a decision you made and thought, if only I had known better? Most of us have. We carry lessons etched into our past, some gentle, some painful, and we call that experience. But in Buddhism, what we truly seek isn't just experience. It's wisdom, pan, the kind that changes how you live, not just what you remember. Wisdom, in the Buddhist sense, is not about having more information. It's not cramming your mind with facts or reading a library of books. It's about seeing clearly, seeing into the heart of things. It's a deep, intuitive understanding of how life works, the nature of suffering, the impermanence of all things, the illusion of control. You can't download that kind of wisdom from a podcast or Google it on your phone. It doesn't arrive with age. It comes through stillness, through inner clarity, and through moments when the noise of the world fades, just long enough for the truth to be heard. The Buddha taught that wisdom is one of the 3 pillars of the spiritual path, alongside ethical conduct, SLA, and mental discipline, Sande. It is the culmination of practice, not something separate, but something that grows as we live with awareness. So where does it begin? Often, it starts with a quiet realization, one that cracks open a doorway inside you. Maybe it's the moment you see that chasing after the next achievement hasn't really made you happy. Or that holding on to anger is only burning you from the inside. Or that the fear you've been running from is not as real as it seems. These moments are not dramatic, but they are profound. Because once you've seen something clearly, it becomes very difficult to unsee it. Wisdom is cultivated not just in meditation halls but in the raw reality of daily life. When you lose someone you love. When your plans fall apart. When you're forced to start over. Each of those experiences, though painful, can become fertile ground for deep insight. Because suffering, as hard as it is, often forces us to ask different questions. Instead of asking, how can I avoid this? We begin to ask, what is this trying to show me? Instead of blaming the world, we start looking inward. And slowly, something begins to shift. We realize that trying to control everything only brings exhaustion. That clinging to what's temporary brings sorrow. That freedom lies not in changing the world, but in changing how we relate to it. This is wisdom, not as a theory, but as liberation. It's what allows you to walk through this messy, beautiful, unpredictable life with more grace, more compassion, and less fear. But how do we grow it? The Buddha offered 3 tools: listening, contemplating, and meditating. We begin by listening to wise teachings. Not just hearing them, but receiving them, like a seed landing on fertile soil. Then we reflect, does this resonate with my life? How have I seen this play out? And finally, we sit with it. In meditation. In silence. That's where understanding moves from the head to the heart. I remember a time when I was going through a deep personal loss. Nothing anyone said seemed to help. But in the quiet moments, alone with my breath and the ache in my chest, I started to see something I couldn't before. That life was asking me not to fix the pain, but to be present with it. To let it carve space inside me for deeper compassion. That understanding didn't come from logic, it came from wisdom. And that's the difference. Knowledge tells you what to do. Wisdom tells you how to be. So maybe the invitation today is this. Instead of trying to gather more answers, can you learn to sit with the question? Instead of reacting automatically, can you pause and notice your mind? Instead of striving for perfection, can you embrace being fully human? Wisdom is not reserved for monks or philosophers. It's available to you right here, right now, in the way you breathe, in how you respond to the unexpected, in whether you choose kindness when no one's watching. It's in how you forgive. In how you let go. In how you see yourself in the suffering of another. And over time, this wisdom becomes your compass. It guides you not toward certainty, but toward clarity. Not toward control, but toward freedom. So if you find yourself in a season of confusion, loss, or searching, know this. You're not off track. You're in the classroom of life. And wisdom is quietly waiting for you to listen. Breathe. Pause. The lesson is already here. 16. Letting go of control. Have you ever noticed how much of our suffering comes from trying to control everything? We want people to behave a certain way. We want life to unfold exactly as we planned. We try to control the weather, the traffic, the outcome of a conversation, sometimes even the future itself. But life, as you've probably seen, doesn't always listen. It moves in its own mysterious rhythm. And here's the honest truth: the more we try to grip tightly, the more exhausted we feel. Control becomes a silent prison, and we are both the captor and the captive. The Buddha spoke gently about this. He didn't tell us to fight life. He told us to understand it. He taught that peace arises not from conquering the world outside, but from letting go of our insistence that it must go our way. Let me ask you this. How much of your daily stress comes from things that are truly outside your control? How often do you replay an argument in your mind, trying to rewrite it, trying to make it perfect, even when it's long over? The desire to control is deeply human. It comes from fear, from uncertainty, from the part of us that's trying to feel safe. But ironically, control rarely brings safety. Instead, it often brings tension. We brace ourselves. We worry. We cling. And in doing so, we miss the actual moment we are living in. So what does it mean to let go? Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you realize, I can't control the wind, but I can adjust my sails. You can't control what others say, but you can choose not to be consumed by their words. You can't control every twist of life, but you can meet each moment with presence, not panic. You can't always make things perfect, but you can show up with kindness, clarity, and calm. Think of it like this. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you relax your hand, the sand rests there, steady and still. Letting go is like that. It's not weakness. It's not giving up. It's courage. It's trust. It's the quiet power of knowing, this moment is enough. I don't need to force it. In your own life, maybe there's someone you're trying to change. Maybe there's an outcome you're desperately trying to control. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I let this go? And then listen deeply. Because often, in the very space where we loosen our grip, something beautiful can emerge. Peace. Freedom. A deeper connection with life itself. So today, just for a few moments, let it be. Let the wind blow. Let people be who they are. Let yourself rest. You don't have to carry the world. You just have to meet it, moment by moment, with an open heart. That is where freedom lives. 17. Live with loving kindness, the healing power of metta. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to be kind when life is easy? When everyone treats you well, when the sky is blue, when your coffee is just the right temperature. But what happens when someone cuts you off in traffic? When your coworker gossips about you? When someone close betrays your trust? In moments like these, loving kindness is no longer a sweet idea, it becomes a spiritual discipline. In Buddhist teaching, there's a word for this, metta. Often translated as loving kindness, metta is more than just being nice. It is the intentional practice of sending goodwill, compassion, and warmth not just to those we like, but to everyone, including those who challenge us the most. Imagine this, you're sitting quietly and you begin repeating a simple phrase in your heart. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I live with ease. Then you expand it outward. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you live with ease. You say it for a loved one. For a stranger. And eventually, for someone you resent. That's metta meditation. It might sound strange at first. Why would I wish peace to someone who hurt me? But here's the deeper truth, the resentment you carry doesn't hurt them. It hurts you. Anger burns in your own chest. Bitterness hardens your heart. And when you choose loving kindness, it's not about excusing bad behavior. It's about setting yourself free. Loving kindness softens the sharp edges of life. It turns strangers into companions. It even transforms how you see yourself. Because here's the part we often forget, metta starts at home. With you. With your beating heart. With all the parts of yourself you may have judged, rejected, or hidden. Think of how often we are kind to others but cruel to ourselves. We call ourselves lazy, unworthy, not good enough. But imagine whispering instead. Dear heart, I see your struggle. May you find rest. May you feel loved. The Buddha taught that a mind filled with loving kindness is like a lamp that shines in all directions. No one can stop its glow. Not even hate. Not even fear. And science, interestingly, is catching up. Research on meditation shows that regular practice increases empathy, emotional resilience, and even physical well-being. One study found it reduces symptoms of PTSD. Another found it can literally rewire the brain, softening the amygdala, the part that triggers fear, and strengthening areas responsible for compassion. But this isn't just a technique. It's a way of living. It means holding the door for someone with no expectation. It means choosing a gentle word when a harsh one is on the tip of your tongue. It means remembering that the person yelling at you might be hurting in ways you can't see. And yes, it also means trying, even if awkwardly, to send a small prayer of peace to someone you think doesn't deserve it. Because the moment you do that, you break the cycle. You say, I will not be another echo of pain. I choose something better. So today, I invite you, pause. Breathe. And in the quiet of your own mind, send out a wish. May I be well. May you be well. May we all be free from suffering. Not because it's easy, but because it's powerful. Because it heals you. And through you, it begins to heal the world. 18. Understanding the law of karma, why every action matters. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to carry peace with them wherever they go, while others seem trapped in an endless storm of frustration, regret, or restlessness? Sometimes it looks like life is just random, that good people suffer and bad people get away with everything. But in the teachings of the Buddha, there's a deeper understanding. Nothing happens without a cause. Everything, from your deepest joy to your most subtle worries, has roots. This is what we call karma, the law of cause and effect. Let's pause here and really think about it. Every thought you think, every word you say, every small action, they are all seeds. And these seeds, like anything planted, will grow. They may bloom tomorrow, next year, or even in another season of your life, but the law is simple: what you sow is what you reap. This is not about punishment or reward from some external force. Karma is not fate. It's about responsibility, radical responsibility for the energy you put out into the world. If you sow anger, you harvest more conflict. If you plant compassion, kindness grows, not just in others, but in your own heart. Imagine this: you are in a long line at the grocery store, someone cuts in front of you. Instinct might tell you to snap or glare. But if you've been cultivating patience, you pause. You breathe. You smile. That moment of restraint. That's karma in action. You're not just avoiding conflict, you're creating inner peace. Or maybe it's how you speak to your partner after a long day. Do you choose sarcasm or kindness? Dismissiveness or presence? Karma begins there, in those small, seemingly invisible choices. So ask yourself, what kind of seeds am I planting today? Am I reacting from habit or responding with awareness? Because here's the beautiful truth: you have the power to shift your future by changing your present. One of the most empowering aspects of karma is that it puts the power back in your hands. You are not a victim of your past. Even if you've made mistakes, hurt others, or lost your way, you can plant new seeds now. Seeds of honesty, forgiveness, discipline, generosity. And the more you understand this law, the more mindful you become, not just of what you do, but how you think. What you think eventually becomes what you say. What you say becomes what you do. And what you do becomes your life. The Buddha once said, with our thoughts, we make the world. So if your world feels chaotic, maybe it's time to begin at the root: your mind, your intentions. Let me share something personal. There was a time I used to blame others for my stress, my disappointments, even my failures. But the more I studied this teaching, the more I realized I was giving away my power. Because when you blame others, you can't change. But when you say, this is my karma, and I can shift it, you reclaim your freedom. Think about that. Freedom doesn't always mean doing whatever you want. Real freedom is choosing your response. Real freedom is knowing that your future is not written, it's growing with every mindful choice. So today, as you go through your routine, try asking, is this action planting peace or pain? Is this word coming from love or from fear? And most importantly, what kind of life do I want to harvest? Because life is not happening to you. It's unfolding through you. And karma. Karma is simply the echo of that unfolding. 19. Non-judgment and radical acceptance. Have you ever caught yourself judging someone, maybe a stranger, a loved one, or even yourself, before you even realized what you were doing? One glance. One comment. One thought. It happens so fast. And yet, the impact it leaves on our inner world can be deep and lasting. The Buddha didn't teach us to eliminate judgment through force. He didn't say, stop judging, or else. Instead, he gently invited us to see, to observe without clinging, without resistance. To witness what arises in the mind, not to get caught in it. Not to label it good or bad, worthy or unworthy, but to meet it with open awareness. Just see things as they are, the Buddha taught. Don't add to them. Don't subtract from them. Just see. It sounds simple. But in practice, it requires a profound shift. Think about how often we suffer, not because of what is, but because of what we think it should be. We judge someone's tone and assume they are disrespectful. We judge our body and decide we are not lovable. We judge our past and condemn ourselves for not knowing better. But what if we let go of the need to always evaluate? What if we gave ourselves and others the freedom to simply be? This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means moving from reaction to reception. From resistance to presence. From control to compassion. When we release the habit of judgment, something remarkable happens, our heart softens. We begin to understand that everyone, including ourselves, is on a journey. Everyone is carrying invisible burdens. Everyone is doing the best they can, given what they know and what they've experienced. And suddenly, the person who once irritated us becomes a mirror, showing us where we are still tight, where we are still holding on. Let me ask you something, who in your life do you find hardest to accept? Is it a parent who never showed up the way you needed? A friend who let you down? A stranger whose beliefs challenge your own? Or is it you? When we judge, we place ourselves in opposition to the moment, to the world, to ourselves. But acceptance is the bridge that brings us back. Acceptance is not approval. It's not saying, this is fine. It's saying, this is what is, and I choose to meet it with clarity and care. Think of it like this: if you're caught in a storm, you don't deny the rain. You don't shout at the clouds. You take shelter, you adapt, you move with reality. That's what radical acceptance allows us to do. It frees us from the exhausting fight against what already is. From a Buddhist perspective, acceptance is the soil where healing grows. When we stop judging our pain, we create space to feel it fully, and in feeling it, we transform it. When we stop labeling people as bad or good, we open ourselves to true empathy, because we begin to see not categories, but humans. There's a beautiful practice called compassionate seeing. In this, you look at someone, noticing the shape of their face, their posture, their energy, and silently say, just like me, this person wants to be happy. Just like me, this person struggles. Just like me, they are doing their best. This softens the armor around our hearts. It reminds us that we are not alone in our suffering, and neither is anyone else. But acceptance isn't just about other people. Perhaps the most radical, most life-changing form of acceptance is self-acceptance. Can you sit with your flaws, your fears, your regrets, and not try to fix them immediately? Can you look at your own wounds and say, you belong here too? In a world that constantly pressures us to improve, optimize, hustle, and transform, this kind of acceptance is revolutionary. It's not the end of growth. It's the beginning of real growth, the kind that comes from wholeness, not shame. When you accept yourself, you create an inner home that doesn't depend on perfection. A place where your nervous system can finally exhale. A place where change happens not out of fear, but out of love. And this is the paradox: when you stop judging, you actually begin to change. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally aligned with the truth of who you are. So next time you feel that urge to label, to criticize yourself, to categorize someone else, pause. Breathe. Soften your gaze. And ask, can I see this just as it is? Can I let this moment be enough? In the stillness of that question, you may hear a quieter voice arise. A voice not of judgment, but of wisdom. A voice that says, "You're doing your best. You're learning. You're growing. And right now, you are enough. Because you are. You always have been." And when you live from that truth, when you walk through life with open eyes and an open heart, the world softens in return. Not because it changes, but because you do. The journey back to true happiness. So now, take a deep breath and just pause for a moment. You've just walked through 19 timeless teachings from the Buddha, each one a small doorway, a gentle invitation to live with more clarity, more compassion, and more peace. These aren't abstract ideas. They are a roadmap, a practical path towards something we all quietly long for, real happiness, inner stillness, and a life that feels meaningful. And if we take even just one of these teachings to heart, like letting go of craving, or learning to sit with our breath in stillness, or practicing gratitude when we wake each morning, the entire quality of our lives can begin to shift. Because happiness, as the Buddha taught, doesn't wait at the end of some long road. It isn't hiding in the next achievement, the next relationship, or the next version of yourself. It's already here within you, quiet, steady, and available. It's in the pause between your thoughts. It's in the moment you choose kindness instead of judgment. It's in the breath you take right now, fully aware. These 19 teachings, letting go of desire, living in the present, cultivating compassion, maintaining inner balance, meditating daily, disciplining your mind, are not about becoming someone else. They are about returning to who you truly are when all the noise fades away. And maybe that's the most powerful reminder of all. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to chase more. You only need to remember to return. To come home to your own wisdom. If this video touched something in you, even just a small spark, I encourage you to keep walking this path. Watch it again. Reflect. Let it slowly seep into your day-to-day life. These teachings aren't meant to be rushed. They are meant to be lived. And if you'd like to continue exploring Buddhist wisdom in this gentle, heart-opening way, please consider subscribing to the channel. Every week, we dive deeper into teachings that heal, awaken, and support your journey. Because the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more presence. It needs more of you, fully alive, fully here, and at peace. Until next time, take care of your mind, speak kindly to your heart. And remember, the peace you're searching for is already within you.